Good start.
All right. We are very energized and I love it. Thank you all so much for being at the 9th annual Startup Boston Week. Our mission with this conference is simple: to bring together the entire startup community across every industry, department, and funding stage. Startup Boston exists to connect, educate, and celebrate this ecosystem while serving as a trusted, unbiased partner and guide to the best resources that can help you start and scale your startup or your team. My name is Elena Lobianco. I'm a consultant with TriNet, where we help startups and small businesses scale confidently and compliantly with their HR infrastructure. I will be your hostess today. Before we dive in, I do want to give a huge thank you to Suffolk University for hosting us. Suffolk has generously partnered with us for the last 3 years, providing this space in kind because of their deep commitment in supporting Boston's startup community. So if you're interested in exploring entrepreneurship, they offer a variety of programs and opportunities. They're tabling upstairs on the 5th floor in the vendor hall, so be sure to stop by their table, learn how they can help support your journey and how you might get involved supporting their entrepreneurial students as well. We have a wonderful powerhouse panel today: real talk from the trenches, female founders on trade-offs, grit and support systems. Usually I'll make a joke that if that wasn't on your schedule, reevaluate, don't go anywhere. You don't want to miss this panel. I will kick it over to Sherry. She will be our moderator today. Thank you so much and enjoy the session.
We are so excited to be here. We had a prep meeting last week and we couldn't stop talking. So my goal is to continue that conversation for the next hour, both as your entertainment and knowledge transfer. Question, who do we have in the audience? Anyone who's a founder? Nice. Anyone who works at a startup? Okay. Anyone who is interested in working startups? Amazing. And anything else? Did I miss anything? Amazing. Yes. Advisor support system. Amazing. All right, so we're going to kick this off slightly different than other panels if we haven't done that already. I found this exercise and it did great in a different panel, so you're going to bear with us and try it out. Quote, panelist. Instead of doing an intro, I'm going to have you, and they pre-did it, write your name, company, and role on your whiteboard, and then we're going to share it with everyone in the room. Ready? Go. And then we're going to take a moment and just give the rest of your 1-minute elevator pitch. Erin, you want to start us?
Sure. So hi, everyone. Nice to meet you all. I'm Erin DeWicki. I'm the CEO of Lyme Alert, and we are the world's first home tick testing kit for Lyme disease. Nice to meet you all.
And I'm Cindy Baylardo. I prefer she, her pronouns. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Sunny, and we're the first FDA-cleared menstrual cup and applicator.
Hi, everyone. My name is Michelle. I'm currently an advisor and independent angel investor, formerly the COO of Phoenix Tailings, which is a critical materials startup making rare earth metals sustainably and economically here in Massachusetts.
And Sherry Palazzo. I am the founder and startup advisor for Saplings Consulting. I started that about 3 years ago, and my background is in tech, mechanical, hardware, software, et cetera, with many years of experience, which is why I'm bringing this forward to all of you. All right, team. Question 1. Where did you go to college, and what degrees do you hold? I know. We need the Jeopardy thing.
There's too many.
So part of picking this panel is we come to you with a wide range of experience in different backgrounds and fields. And I hand-selected these lovely, amazing people for that because we can come to you with different perspectives. Great. Next. How many years of work experience do you have? And if you can, list the places you've worked. Thank God we have erasers.
What year is it? 2000.
It sounds like you've got a left to right there.
No, I just can't do math.
Can't write.
Startup.
Oh my God.
Cool.
Okay. Let's dig a little deeper in this because I think it will help connect the audience. Cindy, tell us a little bit of your background and your joining startup world.
Yeah, so I started pretty much right out of college, out of University of Oklahoma. So I had about 3 years in nonprofits, YWCA, Women's Cancer Program. I was a health educator and bilingual coach. And then just at OU as well, a health educator. So it was really, pretty quick. And now about 9 years total of work experience.
Michelle.
Yeah, 8 years of total work experience. The first company I worked for was Mark Forge, it's a 3D printing startup company in the Boston area. Joined them right out of school. Started as a materials engineer researching, doing R&D on metal products, and transitioned to a product manager role before starting Phoenix Tailings with my 4 other co-founders in a backyard about 6 years ago.
Nice.
Erin.
All right. Well, I went to EMT school when I was 17 because I came from a low-income family and I wanted to go into healthcare, and work on ambulance was a way I could earn money towards that and work towards my goal of working in healthcare from an early age. And so I actually started the EMT program at Providence College so that other students could also get their pre-med hours, because you need patient contact hours to apply to med school. And then I became a physician assistant. So I went to South Carolina, did some rural healthcare rotations, and learned about healthcare disparities and lack of equal access to healthcare, which I never would have experienced if I didn't get out of my bubble of New England and our wonderful ecosystem. And I worked at Boston Children's. So I was one of the first 3 PAs in orthopedic surgery there. And then I went down to a private practice on the South Shore and started their pediatric ortho service line. Because again, kids on the South Coast, South Shore were driving over an hour to get their broken bone fixed. So we expanded access. And now I'm a CEO founder, CEO startup founder, which feels really weird to say out loud, but here we are.
And I'm Sherry Palazzo. I've been working for almost 30 years now, which is crazy. I stayed in Big Corp for 20 of that, and then jumped into startup land with both feet into the deep end and had to figure this out. And then 3 years ago, like I said, I pivoted and started doing advisory for startups using all of that experience that I have, and have since worked with probably 60, 70 different startups through different organizations. So that's what we're coming to you with. All right, next team. What introvert, extrovert scale? 1 is introvert, 10 is extrovert. Where do you fall? And I was told that the camera can't pick up the boards because they're reflective, so we can also voice our answers too. Yep.
Oh, perfect.
I don't know the answer to this, so I want to see the answer.
I
7,
think 7.
4.
Oh, I love that.
So I set it to 10s.
That's a good.
Today I'm feeling social. I'm looking forward to meeting you all, but normally I'm a 4.
That's fair.
I'm a 7 out of 10, but I work with engineers, so they think I'm like a 12.
I am an engineer, so I resonate with 4. I try really hard to be a 7.
Nice.
All right, last one. What superpower do you wish you had? And on the same board, what superpower would people say you have?
Like real superpowers?
No?
Like flying counts?
Yep.
Okay.
All right, Michelle, you're starting.
I wish I could fly. That just seems cool. But apparently I have a high patience level, and that's apparently a superpower to some people.
Love that I'm organized. It's also my, what do you call it when it like holds against you, right? But people typically say like I bring an energy room and bring people together. So that's mine.
Nice. Mine was ability to create anything, like any resources, whatever we need. That would be really nice. And then what people tell me is I'm a really good listener and very grounded. So that's good.
I
right.
confirm that.
Oh, thank you.
I wish I needed less sleep. I love to sleep, and I love to sleep for long periods of time, and I wish I didn't need to do that. And my superpower, I've been told I'm really good at building relationships with that, which I credit to 20 years in healthcare and learning how to develop meaningful connections with people.
Excellent. Thank you all, panelists. We're done with whiteboards for now. Let's jump into some questions. And we're going to just vibe, but if you guys have a question, please raise your hand. We're here for you guys. Question 1. What is the thing you're most proud of from your startup journey? Cindy, you want to start?
I can start. Yeah, I would say, it's a roller coaster. It's ups and downs and a lot of them, very frequently. So I would say it's just my personal growth and just committing to that because there's not much to ground in. And I would say just to see myself 6 years ago, it is incredible how much I have grown and changed, and it directly reflects into my personal life. So that's what I would say.
I can go next. We built a pilot facility and launched it in October 2023. For me, that was a culmination of years of R&D, getting the team together, getting our equipment from prototype to actual operating equipment, getting 4 of them stood up, and in a beautiful new plant, we were able to show off to all of the supporters. We had this big opening ceremony. It was literally chaos the week before. You know how when you pack and unpack a house, it's like a mess before everything is actually neat and you do a housewarming. It was like that, but 10 times more satisfying because it was, you could see when we had all of our guests, our investors, our team members, the community that, advisors that came to help us, all there to celebrate the moment where, hey, we made this. We're now the first commercially producing rare earth metal production outside of China. Was a great moment, and to celebrate that with everyone was, I think, one of my proudest nights.
Okay, so I went to MIT being adamant that I did not want to do a startup. I never wanted to be in entrepreneurship. Not interested. It's unstable, and I need a salary, and I have a mortgage and 2 children, and that it just sounded like a terrible idea. And so I guess I'm really proud of the fact that despite those initial misgivings, I came up with an idea that really translates into potentially changing a lot of people's lives if you have earlier access to diagnosis, and then translating that into an actual product with the most amazing team I have ever been on. So I'm really proud of that. I'm really proud we all kind of dug in and we committed to each other and solving this problem, and we're making it happen.
And looking back, do you think, okay, you were scared, but this was all worth it?
It's really rewarding. But yeah, if you had asked me when I started at MIT, I would have been like, hell no.
I am a tech geek, come from an engineering background, and currently I get to play in everybody else's tech, so that's really fun. But jumping into this, I've learned beyond that. I learned more in 6 months at my startup Alteros than it took me 6 years at GE to learn. And I can't look back and say that was absolutely worth it, just the growth opportunity. And I tell that to people straight out of college. They're like, do I do the startup where it seems risky? Do I go to the stable company? And I was like, at some point in your career, you should do both. But if you do the startup, you're going to learn so much and so quickly. So if you're willing to take that risk, you should try it. Being a woman in the startup space can come with both extra challenges and unexpected advantages. Have you experienced both during your journey, and would you share something? Cindy, let's start with you.
Okay. Yep. Yes, and also being in femtech, I mentioned the menstrual cup and applicator, so having just another layer of that, of course, not all women have periods, but a lot of us know what that process is like, and educating investors, ourselves, how to get, break that taboo of just, a fem health process. There's just been so many layers of this for me. And yeah, I would say that it's really in perfectionism. I think that's what I was really socialized to do and control as much as possible. And that is very difficult and not possible in the real world and in startups. I had to unlearn a lot of things. and just, I think, reshape and understand what I am in control of versus what's out of my control, and just, measure myself to what is in my control. And that is going to make for a much better mental health and a better day, like be able to unplug and know that, I did what I could at that time and I made the best call that I could. And just having, like, being able to separate and let that go. I think that's a big one that a lot of women that I've talked to can relate to.
And on the flip side of that,
And on the flip side of that, I would say, like, the detail orientedness, that's come into strategy, that's come into thinking of the risks ahead of time. So there's good things to that as well, and why, women-led companies are more successful. Like, we're seeing those stats coming out as well. I think it is because we are thinking of all the connections and the what ifs. So there's two sides.
example.
Yeah, I have two short stories to share about the challenge and benefits. On the challenge side, a woman in operations in metal refining is rare. And so I have a quick story of where I would go to see sites as we're looking to site our next pilot facility. I'd walk up, and my intern is a young male. We'd walk up, and he would get the first handshake and say, welcome. And I'd be like, hi, I'm the COO. I'm excited to see the facility. Already in my head, I'm kind of mentally docking this broker. But that was not an uncommon thing for me to experience. So that's a challenge. In terms of a benefit, this kind of goes to show a team that has diverse opinions does help make a better end result. So the company name Phoenix Tailings was a result of a female perspective. So we work with material that's called red mud, and we were recycling it. That was the early stages of our backyard project. The three guys that are my co-founders came up with this wonderful name called Red Cycle because it's red mud being recycled. You all caught that very quickly. I have told this story to a bunch of a mixed audience, and the men always look around and go, well, that sounds fine to me. And I was like, yeah, that's not good. Half the population will think of something else. Let's focus on maybe calling it Phoenix Tailings, like recycling of tailings, but like the phoenix rising from the ashes. So those are my two stories of like the benefits and the challenges.
I get this question asked to me a lot. It happened, there was one in particular where I was interviewing a female senior level engineer, and she kept bringing this question up in the interview process, like, has it held you back? Like, how has it affected you? And at that point in my career, I was like, no, I don't even know what you're talking about. And there was such a disconnect there. And so it made me think of things a little bit differently. And little backstory, I've been a minority in all situations because I'm Chinese, Jamaican, Canadian, moved to the States, went into engineering, there's never been a majority that I'm part of, right? So I think from my view of it, like, I haven't looked at it that way because I don't know any different. But the benefit it's had is similar to you. I've been in meetings and rooms where they expect very little from me, and I'm the one that can drive additional conversation. I can ask the tougher questions that everyone's blazing over because they're kind of taken off guard. I don't know how else to describe it. One of my really specific fun stories on it was I was working at Bose at the time. We had a separate building where all our testing was. So I designed these new headphones. I needed them tested. I walk them over to the test center, and the guy that runs the test group, no joke, is like 6'6" and like 400 pounds. And I walk in with my stuff, and he goes, oh no, she's here. She's so scary. And at that point I was like, oh, it doesn't matter. If you don't know, I'm 4'11". And so, like, size, whatever, like, you can have a presence without it being, with any assumptions being had.
I like that.
Erin, anything to add?
Yeah, no, I kind of love that, and I want to pull on it a little bit because there's almost a benefit that we walk in a room and we're underestimated. And I kind of love that feeling. Like, okay, you want to underestimate? Let's go. The thing I've noticed, okay, so I come from orthopedic surgery, and 6% of orthopedic surgery are women. So it's been underrepresented my entire career. And people warned me in the startup world, like, hey, you're going to go out there, you're going to pitch, you're going to get asked weird questions because you're a woman. I'm like, what's that even mean? And I'm used to being, like, the only woman in the room, so whatever. So we were on a social innovation show in the finals with a large, well-known billionaire investor from Silicon Valley who shall remain nameless for this today, but you can ask me in private. And so we're on this rooftop in New York, and we had 2 minutes to pitch. And then they, like, pull you off the stage with a hook, like 2 minutes is strict. So I start out, I'm like, hi, I'm Erin, I'm the CEO of Lime Alert. And they're like, Lime Alert, Tix, you must be here because TikTok's a sponsor. So immediately interrupting. you know, and 2 minutes to get this whole value prop out. Wow. And then we get to the team, and he's like, well, why would 3 women from MIT even want to stick together to work on this?
Ooh.
Now, that's exactly what I said. I'm like, I'm not quite sure what that means, but, and then kept going. And we were the only women on the stage, by the way. It was all male teams. And the next guy team went, and he's like, and the next one is this. And he's like, so complimentary, and lets him pitch start to finish, 2 minutes, no problem. And so that was the first realization I had, like, oh, shoot, like, there's something to this that, you know, the women-led teams, especially science-based teams, are treated differently than the guys. The other thing we've had happen is our data gets questioned all the time. Like, we're from MIT, we eat data for breakfast. We freaking love it, you know? And we always cite our statistics. So like one of them was, you know, 496,000 people are diagnosed with Lyme disease every year. And an investor said, I don't believe your number. That's too many people. I said, that's literally from the CDC, you know? So we get asked about risk as opposed to opportunity all the time. And there have been studies quantifying that is a common phenomenon for women looking for investment.
Oh yeah, definitely echo that. I always get the risk questions, both because of my role and because of my gender. And the CEO, who's a male, gets the questions that are, what is your 10-year plan? What's the exit strategy? The big visionary questions.
How do we do with that? Like, so you're saying you think it's fun when you take them off guard. So how do you use that as a power?
Well, one of my most fun strategies that I'm pulling from pediatrics and being a mom is reframing it back at them. Can you elaborate on that question?
Nice.
What did you mean by that? Like, just kind of like,
Make them say it out loud.
yeah. If you really want to go there,
Yeah.
you're gonna say that out loud to me.
right.
And that's been an evolution. I'm getting more comfortable with that. But at the beginning, like, no, you're on defense, and you're just like, oh shoot, like, what did they just ask me? How do I respond to that?
And part of like this panel existing is I came to Startup Boston Week last year, and I was looking for something like this because we share these stories like in our prep meeting. We're like, yeah, like we're all nodding our head that we get it. But you don't have these conversations often enough to feel like you're not alone or you're not supported. So thank you again all for sharing today. Let's talk about support systems. So I call them my personal board of directors. I have a set of people that I know that have different skill sets that I reach out to at different times depending on what support I need. Do you have something similar, and how have you chosen who goes on your personal board of directors?
I can start if you want. Yeah, I would say definitely I found that at the beginning of my journey, though, I did not. So I think I've learned that over the years, and it's like there are the continuous cycles, the ups and downs, and now that has really been like my sister. You know, I can go to her, and I know it's going to be a certain, you know, support and fire me up and get that energy that I need. My husband as well, like get that other perspective, just someone a little bit outside, and sometimes just kind of check my thinking. And then there's, of course, like you said too, like the friends, the advisors, the mentors. So there's certain areas like, okay, this one's an operations one, or this one's a manufacturing one, or this one's, you know, a marketing one. And so I have like a different subset of friends and colleagues in those areas that I can pick up the phone and just say like, hey, could you just gut check this for me? And that really, really means a lot. It helps.
And you're using them more now than you used to?
Using them more now than ever. Definitely.
I feel like I built 2 different types of support groups. One was like a peer network. So I was jealous of all the CEOs having their little round tables and getting together and having drinks and all that. So I created my own little COO group, which was just a friends in various different industries, also with the same title. We all commiserated about the fact that our roles are undefined and we're just kind of doing whatever needs to get done. And there was a lot of shared learnings, right? We all were like, we're able to give each other advice on, hey, does that sound like it makes sense? Or we're both thinking about, like, we need to fire this person. Could you like help me practice through it? And that was really helpful. We met once a month, mostly virtually, but sometimes in person. And that really helped me get through a period of time. Unfortunately, as I started to burn out, I had less and less energy to keep it going, which is kind of a vicious cycle on its own. And then there was the personal support group, which is like the friends that have nothing to do with startups, who gave me a healthy sort of perspective. I would go to like a friend's place on the weekend just to literally get out of Boston, be in the woods, and realize like all the things I'm worried about is not the end of the world, right? Like this little perspective of like, hey, you know, life moves on. Like this decision you're making is important for your business, but if this whole thing, you know, goes under, like you learned a lot. It's okay. Like that little refresher is really helpful, especially when you're dealing with these crises that you're like really stuck in a tunnel moment. Having someone say, hey, are you still enjoying what you're doing? Let's have a wine, let's sit down, let's enjoy this, campfire. Like those little things really helped pull me out of like my own spiral.
So good.
Yeah. So I actually met one of my I call her my kitchen sink board of advisors, the people who you can hang out by the kitchen sink with and just shoot the breeze. I met one of them at an event like this, actually. So she just came up to me. She works in health tech. She's been a healthcare executive for decades. And she was like, let's just have coffee. And we had coffee, and we just had this instant connection of like, she had such good learnings for me. And we just text. I'll text her if I'm I'm like, I need to bounce this idea off of you. I don't know if this is right. And she's just available to me, which is amazing. I'm super grateful for it. And then I've also kind of curated like a very eclectic group of friends over my life. And so like I literally have a friend, she's a professor here, and I've been friends with her since kindergarten. So she came up to me first day of kindergarten and said, do you want to be my friend? And yeah, it's been like 35 years
And
since.
and then you say, do you want to be on my kitchen board of directors?
But it's like, I keep people around me. I'm not, Sherry, like I'm all over the place, pulled in like 8 million different directions, as I'm sure a lot of people in this room are. And so the people who are important and are on my kitchen sink board of advisors are people who are low maintenance people who we can check in with each other whenever. And it's okay. Like if you go a month without talking, like that's okay. And I've actually said to people, I'm like, look, if you need a friend who checks in with you like every week at this time, I'm not the person for you. So I think just being clear about your expectations of relationships and setting that up from day zero is really important too.
Yeah, when I decided to leave my full-time job and start this consulting thing, it was like the scariest thing I'd done because I'm so an anti-risk person. And I built a set of people some people who had done it before, other consultants that had been doing it for a long time. And through that journey, and I'm looking at a couple people in here, I've continued to build that. So now I can like give that back or like create that support system in this world that I wasn't trained in order to do, but also pay it forward. So any of you in the room need just, half hour of help or advice, like, come, we're here. That's why we're putting ourselves out there. We're available to you. Michelle, I'm starting with you on this one. You touched a little bit on burnout. Do you mind sharing your story of how that came to be and what you've done to recover from that?
Yeah. So fundraising, as many of you probably know, is not the most exciting part of the business and can be very, very stressful. So for me, burning out looked like working nonstop. I worked like 16-hour days and really didn't take time off on weekends because we were just pushing and pushing and pushing and going. And I did not take good care of myself, so I kind of skipped meals, was on coffee. Literally, that fueled me through the day. I wouldn't have a meal until like dinner, which was like 8 p.m., and would just go home at midnight, sleep, come back to work. I highly do not recommend that, but for some reason I felt like
How long did you sustain that?
For like 3 to 6 months. For me, I thought that's what I needed to do to close this round. That's like what I felt like. I was so attached to the success of this company as part of my identity. So that led me to make those decisions, which in retrospect was very unhealthy. I hit a point where I just was not able to make good decisions because I was so tired. I think the friends I mentioned that I would go, I realized once we got our term sheet, like, great, I can take a weekend off. And that was when
Did you
my
hear
friends,
that? She took a weekend off.
my friends were like, are you happy, Michelle? And that was like the beginning of me realizing, oh, this is not sustainable. I need to find a way to really come back from this. So I took my first vacation in like 6 years last December, took 2 weeks off, actually disconnected from the business, went all the way to the other side of the world, to Thailand. Beautiful country, by the way. But that's what it took for me to kind of like get out of my like super overachiever mode. Because we got to a point where I joke about this. I planned this vacation because I would be able to take this time off regardless if we were successful with this close or not, because that was when runway would run out. And that is also, if we were successful, we would have closed and we'd have cash in the bank and I can take a break. So that was where my head was at. I was given this advice when I was starting out as a founder and didn't take it seriously. My mentor had told me, hey, you should take at least a long weekend every month and 2 weeks off each year, just for your own mental health. I said, that sounds cool. I don't need that. So now I'm in the other position where I have, it's burned me out, so I've taken a step away from day to day, left the COO role, very happy about that. And I've just been traveling for the past few months and finally feel like fully recovered from just working for 6 years and really pushing myself in the last 6 months, focusing on fundraise. So that's kind of the story of what happened for me. And I'm in a position now where I want to help other founders be that extra set of ears when you're going through that, because I went into like my own little tunnel and was not listening to anyone else. And everything was just super chaotic. And I thought I was alone, but you're not when you're doing this.
So
Other
you should
people
have
do
reached
it.
out to your board of directors.
I should have
at that
reached
point.
out, but it was one of those vicious cycles where I said, hey, I don't have time because this is not related to fundraising. I'm going to cut this. And those are all my support networks. I should have engaged them more.
My burnout. Oh, yeah, go ahead. Do we want a mic over there?
Wait.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for sharing that. I know for me and in my network, we have trouble even when we take vacation. So I'm curious if you have any advice on like boundary setting, like anything that worked for you to make sure that you were really offline and use that time to recharge. Because I think that's difficult to do.
For sure. I think I went a little overkill because that was my first real vacation. But I wrote out this like 3-page document about all of the areas and who was the contingency person while I was gone, and basically a way that things could escalate, right? So as CEO, I oversaw a lot of things. So I said anything that was operational finance, went to our interim CFO, gave him as much information as could, documentation around that, and like for each areas I was overseeing. And I told my executive assistant, who's a virtual assistant, hey, like you have my phone number. I will not check email or Slack. And if anything escalates beyond these levels, please let me know. And these are my like windows of like time change. The time change really helped. Like I will literally be asleep during this time when business is happening, and I'll wake up and I'll check if I have a message from you, and then I will go on and log on. But otherwise, I will not. I think I had reached the point where I need to set those clear boundaries. But I have heard, even for the shorter periods, you can do like 12 hours offline and just know that, hey, nothing is so critical that in, say, 12 hours that it's going to be so bad that you can't be away for that period of time. Even if you're CEO, you should have backups. You should have someone else who can be, on call, so to speak, right? We have, I'm sure you could talk about like the medical systems have this figured out where people are on call so other people can take breaks.
Awesome.
I am
Thank
all
you.
about accountability partners. So when I was leading my group at that point, Alteros was about 50 people, and I'm the same role, VP of Engineering Operations, and I wanted to be the example to the team. So I did take vacation. I would start warning them that I was going on vacation about 2 weeks ahead of time to be like, hey, by the way, if you need something, let me know. But I'd also make them my accountability partners. So I'd say, I'm going on vacation. You all know I need this. It is up to you to tattle on me if you see me working. And they took that to heart and held me accountable to it, so that they also were being conscious about not handing over work to me while I was on vacation.
I like that.
And one thing is that people will step up during this period. It's actually not bad for a leader to step away. You'll see who steps in, steps up, and things that were crises are actually not, and could have waited a couple of days.
We have one quick question. Hi, I'm Hannah. I had a question about like burnout culture in the startup, but like in your particular startup, and like how do you create a culture that like values setting those boundaries, not just for yourself, but like for your team? Because like I feel like the last thing I want to do when I start a startup is like make someone else's life miserable, right? So, but like startup life is it's hard. So like, do you have any advice about how to balance those two things?
Culture starts at the top. So to what Cherry's point, you have to lead by example. I was not a good example.
But she was an amazing COO.
I saw that. Unfortunately, I did see some of my direct reports start to mimic me, right? They would also skip lunch. They would also not take vacation. And I realized even though I verbally told them, hey, you should take time off, I was not setting a good example by doing that myself.
Where do we want to go? Okay.
Thank you. I just wanted to comment, Michelle, on how you set up that framework when you went on the vacation. Like at first when you were talking, I was like, that's overachiever stuff. But really, it's so good because, like, I have a design business, and I had a prior company, and I had a partner who would disappear on vacation. So she had been running projects. Yeah. Oh, okay. So right, disappear like a pop star. So, but I didn't know, I hadn't been involved in her project. So I was sort of left holding this bag with clients, and it wasn't good for the company. So I really applaud the fact that you were so thorough about setting up that framework, because number one, I mean, setting clear roles and responsibilities, we all know, is so pivotal for a successful business. It probably really empowered and reduced anxiety for the people on your team because they knew what they had to do. They were also supporting you, and also for you, that you could say, okay, I've set up this whole system, everything's in place, and now I can go off to Thailand and hang out and know that everybody knows what they're doing. So that's great.
Thank you.
Could I add to that too?
Yes, please.
Like, I feel like that just kind of spoke to me a little bit of, like, the people pleasing, like, yeah, I can take that next thing, like overdoing that. And I've had to really catch myself a lot too. And yeah, just like you're saying, kind of level setting. And I feel like right now my ops manager is doing a really good job of just like, hey, let's define it. What's the scope? What's the time? What's realistic? Let's not over promise. For
All right,
yourself.
I'm going to stand up because I like seeing everybody. All right, my name is Adriana. I am a founder. I am on my second venture. This is the first time as a solo founder, though. And earlier you were talking about how all of you have experienced how your gender has influenced how people interact with you, and like the investors and the startup community and things like that. Has being a woman impacted any decision-making around co-founders, advisors, people you surround yourself with that are then associated with you to the broader startup community? Thank you.
I can start there. I was on a 4-person co-founding team, and we leaned into our differences. Our CEO was a slightly balding white man, and we definitely leaned into that for the connections he could make in the golfing ecosystem and the old men club. And he's not that much older, but they could talk about hair products, right? I can't talk about hair products. He's gonna hate me for saying that. And then I leaned into I could naturally connect more with women investors, and our other co-founder was born in Texas, but his family's Mexican. So in that area, he could tap into and lean into it. So I would definitely recommend thinking about a diverse co-founding team where all of you complement each other and have different perspectives. So because our other co-founder is an immigrant from South Africa. So he was actually very adamant about how we hired immigrants and supported visas and sponsors visas, because I've never lived through that experience. Now there are other co-founders, but he did. And he's like, this is really important. And we're like, okay, great. We just didn't have that lived experience, and his perspective really helped us define that part of the culture.
Yeah.
Erin, do you?
Yeah, we have, so our current team, we have 3 women, 2 guys. We just brought on our first Caucasian male as our CFO, which maybe might help with the fundraising. And I would say our default is we like working with women. We find women really collaborative. We find we set norms from day zero. So we actually had a team building weekend where we went up to New Hampshire, went hiking together, and we talked about how we communicate. And we all have different communication styles. So, one of our teammates is, she lives in Singapore, so she has a very direct communication style. We have another teammate who likes to be direct, but feels a little bit maybe uncomfortable with how that might reflect back on her, and she's questioning that a lot. I tend to have a very collaborative and kind of laid back way of communicating, so I don't take offense to anything. And so we all had to talk about our different communication styles and what would be the norms for a company, because we are all coming from different spots. And as a result, we have a team with a lot of psychological safety who can push back on each other comfortably in weekly meetings. And I don't think we would have had that if we hadn't talked about our differences right from day zero and how to leverage that, how to take advantage of that.
I think that's really important for onboarding onto a team. Always, how do people communicate? I remember bringing some folks on saying, hey, when salespeople call you, it's not like the thing's on fire. I know in engineering, if someone calls you, like literally the thing's on fire. You guys prefer like email and text, and then like that's the opposite with sales. Like if you send me email, it's very formal, right? Like even something as simple as that, kind of just getting ahead of it, and even to the point of like, hey, this is my personal communication style, really helps kind of grease the wheels ahead of time, so you don't have this like, oh no, I thought you meant this, and like people are trying to like walk on, what is it saying? Walk on eggshells. That's what it is. Yeah.
I know we're on a female panel here. My advice, and I do this for all the startups I work with, is like, have you sat down and had the values discussion? So similar to what Erin's saying, not just communication, like how do you want to work? What is important to you? If those are aligned and you guys agree to that and follow it, then that's what I've seen as better success than if it's like a specific person you're reaching out to. My whole thing with the values also is like, when we were at Alteros, we came up with 6 values and we live by them. And so even though my CEO offered one of them, which was to have fun, and when we were post-COVID and stressed out, it wasn't so much fun, I could look at him and say, hey, is this still our value? And if so, then we need to do more to support our employees. And so it holds everybody else accountable to the same system. I highly recommend it. One of the startups I do advisory for, she said her and her co-founder met for 15 hours and hashed through everything with scenario planning, whatever, before they agreed to sign the document that they were willing to work together.
Yeah, I can add to that too. I have had a co-founder as well, female. We were a duo team. She did burnout, so there's a whole conversation there. But yeah, kind of starting what we came together with to hiring anyone or like advisors, even mentors, investors. We try to use this framework of these 3 things, which is startup acumen, technical skill, and then culture fit. I feel like that's kind of how all these things that you've said too, but helps me like make sure it's the right fit.
Wanted to touch one more burnout story because I know that's why you are where you are right now, Erin, was medical and COVID. Can you share that?
Yeah. So, as everyone knows, COVID for healthcare providers was a terrible time. And what happened was every week the guidelines would change. So we went from being able to do outpatient visits only to now, okay, we're covering, but we're cross-covering, and we're doing all this infectious disease coverage that, frankly, we were all getting pulled into specialties that we hadn't practiced in just because there was a lack of people and we all needed to cover each other. And so it was just like fatigue from having to reinvent yourself and learn new positions like every week with like a moving target as what your goals were. And we're rolling out programs in the middle of a pandemic just to try and continue to provide access. So we rolled out this pediatric urgent orthopedic program and adult so that we were diverting orthopedic injuries because people were doing all these home improvement projects and falling off ladders. No. And then sitting in the ER with all the COVID patients. And I'm like, this is terrible. So we set up this urgent orthopedic program to divert people from the ER, come straight to the office and get urgent care there. So kind of like ER adjacent. And then it came to surgery. It came to, okay, you can only do surgery if they can go home the same day. And so now we're bleeding money because orthopedic surgery, that's what pays the bills. And so we came up with a protocol to do same-day total joint replacement in the middle of a freaking pandemic, multidisciplinary, figuring out the pain protocols and the home PT and the home nursing and how are we going to handle what typically we used to keep patients in the hospital for 3 days. So at the end of the pandemic, instead of just being able to breathe and decompress about the traumatic stuff we saw, the people dying, the new programs we had to roll out, it was like, cool, now we have to go double speed and make up for all the money that we lost out on during the pandemic. And you have to do it with less resources because so many people quit healthcare and or retired and did all this. And it was like, wait, we're not going to debrief like this terrible thing we just went through. We're just going to like keep going and go twice as fast. And so I got like super angry. And then the other thing that started happening was insurance companies were denying more and more of my claims. So I was submitting these MRI referrals for pediatric patients who needed urgent surgery, and they're getting blanket denied by the insurance companies. And this is for like an ACL tear. This is not like anything weird or off-label. So I would call the insurance. So now I have to set up what's called a peer-to-peer review, which is a scheduled meeting with a physician who may or may not be in my specialty and argue through why this kid needs this MRI. And so the physicians were asking me the questions. They were literally asking me to read my clinical note in the order I wrote it because I know the clinical practice guidelines by heart. And finally, I asked a couple, I'm like, what is going on? Like, I got 10 out of 10 MRIs denied over 2 weeks. And they said they're getting batch denied at the non-clinical level, either by AI or administrative staff, because they know a certain percentage of healthcare providers will not go through the appeals process. So it's literally part of the financial model. And I was getting so angry about this. And so this is taking time away from my kids, you know, that I'm staying after hours, after seeing 30 patients to fight through this appeals process because I care about my patients. And I was angry enough that I finally said, I either need to step away from healthcare altogether, or I need to go back to school and become part of the solution and help build something better. So I like to say I rage applied to MIT, and my thesis, my thesis was, how do we leverage emerging technology to build a more affordable, accessible, equitable system for everybody? So that was my thesis. Did not go for the startup, but yeah. What was the original question?
Yeah, no, I wanted to. It's your burnout story of what got you here.
Yes, that was my burnout. So.
And
And
just,
now here I am.
and you know, you're hearing that, like, we've all struggled with this. I know Cindy well enough, like, she's had a crazy year, but she still puts a smile on her face and it takes care of herself. I got through a COVID burnout from a product development standpoint. 18 months into the COVID, we had designed a brand new system, tested it, put it on a boat to go to Japan for our first customer, and then I couldn't get off the couch for a month. And I was like, what the hell is this? So someone had asked, like, how do you manage that? At that point, I was not managing it well. But once I reflected on what was happening, I didn't want it to happen to anyone else. So we had like an educational moment where we explained to the rest of the company, like, this is what burnout is. This is how, here's a test you can, because I'm an engineer, this is how you measure it. This is how you can evaluate it. And here are the resources, both externally and internally, that we're providing to make sure that none of you have to go through this. But those moments are also, whether it's realize that you're done and you need a break and reassess and fill your life with fun things, or start a new business and go to grad school or whatever, like, those moments are your body telling you, like, something's not right, but it's also an opportunity to learn from that and really reassess what is important to you and make sure that moving forward you can support that properly. So I'm off my soapbox.
I love it. Thank you all for being here. This is wonderful. A quick question. So you each mentioned your different support systems and the importance of, keeping these people around, but curious how you each identify these individuals that you're able to bounce ideas off of, and, what are those factors that, are key to you for really, knowing who's part of your support system versus who may just be a friend?
It's a lot of trust, but also I look at it from a gap assessment of, like, okay, what skill sets do I have? What do I have currently? What do I need, and who can provide that? And then it's a dating relationship of, like, okay, they have the skill sets and knowledge that I need. Like, do we work well together? Are they going to provide it in the way that I need it? But also, like, having that group of people, because each person isn't going to fill everything for you. So being able to be like Cindy said, there's certain people she goes to that are going to be tough on her, and certain people that are going to be kind, and so building that out. But it's a relationship building and trying to figure that out. But I do have a certain set that I've told them they are on my personal board of directors. So I said, for saplings to exist, I need these skill sets. Like, I want you to know you have this role. They're unpaid. They have to answer my phone calls at odd hours. But I've made it a kind of official so we can joke about it.
I like it.
Hi there. Thank you so much for the panel today. I'm a female founder. I'm here with my female co-founder also. And I'm wondering, living in Boston, I've tried to find groups to support female entrepreneurs, female founders. And I know for instance, there's a Women in Tech meetup sometimes. What groups would you recommend? I mean, we're in this room. We probably want to connect with each other in some way so that we can network and expand. What groups do you turn to, et cetera? Thank you.
For good or bad, I've built some of them. So I'm a expert resident at Greentown Labs, and we had a Women of Greentown group, but it was like pretty dormant. And we had a panel similar to this, and the buzz in the room was like palatable. And I was like, we're not letting this go. So we built that over time, where we have monthly events, and I have a steering committee now, and like we've turned it into something real. Greentown Labs is in Somerville. They're a clean tech incubator, and the group within Greentown is Women of Greentown. So it's not open to you all. It's something that Women X Innovators is another one. That's actually how a bunch of us met at a conference they put on. That is public, so you could look into them. They're touch and go. Like, they start off really strong and it's kind of fizzle a little bit. But even if we said, let's all join there and meet over there, happy to like run a group over there so we can all connect and find each other. So we'll let them know that might be happening.
I encourage you to start the groups you find as your own like network, because everyone has, like, to the point maybe earlier, like different needs and different desires, and maybe you want a group that's focused on like industry specific or stage specific, or just, you know, you and your like 4 people that you connect really well with, that you can be brutally honest with each other. I personally haven't found any specific organization that I like am very attached to, but I've found sort of my own curated group to be the most helpful for me personally. It does take a little bit of effort though.
Yeah, I'd echo that too. Like, just depending on your industry, I could speak to more of like the femtech area, but there's a lot of like Slack channels, so you can kind of have those as you need to, kind of look at events, and that's a great way to network and try to find your people. Conferences are also a great way to connect to people.
And some of the accelerators and incubators, so they form really tight cohorts, and especially that cross-industry pollination, I find has been really useful because, you know, sometimes you're so deep in the weeds. I said this to Sherry the other day. Sometimes you're like, you can't see between the trees because you're just so deep in what you're doing. So kind of collaborating with people who aren't in your industry, I find is super helpful for me.
And I said, Stephanie, the CEO of Startup Boston, she and I have started that conversation of like, is there something that Startup Boston can be offering to pull people together? So given the feedback today, happy to spearhead that and see if we can get something going within this organization.
Hi, Danielle Finkelstein. Just to share also, Scroobius Allison Byers is phenomenal and an amazing founder who brings together particularly female founders. So highly recommend that. The other one, Kristen Kraft with Fidelity. She does the Founders and Funders breakfast. It's every quarter. It's at the food hall. I forget, over, I don't know, whatever the food hall is.
High Street.
Thank you, High Street Food Hall. That's another one where you have incredible founders and funders all in one space. So those in particular, but Allison is constantly follow her, like definitely like check in with her. She always has stuff happening, and she's continuously now really bringing founders together. Scroobius Allison Byers, Byers. She actually was speaking, I think she spoke Monday or Tuesday. But she's a founder who then switched over to do what she's doing, and it's out here to really help startups be better at what they're doing, because especially when it comes to fundraising, we know how hard it is. So, but then also, yeah, the Founders and Funders is a really good breakfast. New York.
Thank you. We have a question in front too.
So I have a question about pitching and finding funding when the world of investors are just a majority of rich, straight, white guys. And I'm just this person who's an intersection of marginalized identities where I'm just queer, neurodivergent, and Asian. And like I noticed a colleague who's just a white dude who is also in the same industry selling a similar product get like more recognition than I do when I'm just doing the same thing. How do you manage that kind of thing with going on with like the earlier conversation about like managing like just dudes underestimating you and just kind of finding like funding and pitching through like all of that?
I'll open the question up a little bit more even. Like, have you seen or heard of stories that are different than your fundraising experiences because you're female? Or how do you overcome that or approach it in a different way?
Yeah, I could start if you want. So yeah, and having having the intersections, having an all-female team and minority team, as well as being in femtech, and you know, we've faced not even just, you know, men or non-menstruators not knowing what we're doing, not knowing how tampons work and all that good stuff. We got to like back up our education to women as well. So we've had a lot of just education and learning how to craft that pitch and just trying to like refocus it on that side of the house to the product. But I would say, yeah, we love our white dudes. We've had a lot of support. But yeah, there's different layers, and then there's different levels of people kind of getting it, I would say. So really just exposing yourself and practicing, and it just bringing it back to the data, to the product, to the mission. Are they, understanding that is also part of the culture and alignment fit that you should do with an investor too, is not just, the check that's going to get you money, but also be aligned with what you're trying to build. So I would say that that's also a good gut check, is their comfort, their willingness to meet you in the middle, their willingness to learn and ask good questions.
And something that I'm curious to see what the other founders say is like, can't always be picky with funders because you need the money.
Yep.
But if you get the wrong one who doesn't believe in your mission or doesn't believe in you, it's almost a death sentence. So take that into account, that you're interviewing them just as much as they're interviewing you.
I'd love to echo on that, because that's something we struggled with for a while, is realizing that, we're a very mission-driven company and we want to make this accessible and affordable. And a lot of the potential investors were like, well, we would price it here because that would be more profitable. I'm like, well, cool. That's literally against the mission of why we're doing this. I'm not going to give my blood, sweat, and tears to do that. And so we've found funders, but they're so mission aligned, like they either have a really personal connection to us or the problem we're solving. And it's really changed our whole fundraising strategy. It's become much more of a relationship development and finding those people who are truly, truly mission aligned and want to see this make a difference, as opposed to just going to VCs and blanketing it and doing, 50, 70 VC pitches. So that's been a mental shift. And I think it's been a really good mental shift, because if we had gotten VC money right from the get-go, we would have been pushed to build faster and in a way that doesn't align with our values. So it's actually been a blessing that it's been a bumpier journey.
I agree with evaluating investors with the same values rubric as you do with anyone else into your team. We've turned down investment offers because the request was we need to cut a whole part of our business that was part of the founding mission. And the founders, we all sat down and said, hey, do we want to take this money and this process now, or do we want to make the harder decision of continuing to do what we want to do, even if it means we end up not being successful in fundraising? And it was a tough decision. We sat down and had a really long, hard conversation and said, well, let's go down with our values if that is one of the endpoints, because why else did we start this company? So money is you need that to scale, but at the same time, like to your point around the wrong investor is a death sentence, because they will change the trajectory of your business and it will no longer be your business, the company that you started.
And also to add, like there are a lot of underrepresented people's founded VC firms, and that's a lot at the early stage. We've had a lot of support there, so that we can get ourselves in front of, more options. So I would say that's very helpful.
Or alternative funding mechanisms
funding.
too. Like VC is not the only
Correct,
answer. There are other ways. If you can get revenue, crowdfunding, or angels, family offices, they're much more mission focused. Or if you, or if there's any non-dilutive funding sources, like be creative with your customers if you have customers, right? There's a whole other wealth of options to look into before you jump straight into the VC.
Hi, my name is Shira. Thanks for being here. Erin, you mentioned time away from your kids, and I wondered if you could speak to the female founder identity and the mother identity. And by the way, it expands out to all parents, how everyone balances these all-consuming roles that we have, not just for burnout and setting boundaries. Actually, sometimes it can be very effective because it's forcing you. But like, how do you and other panelists, how do you think about that, those dual identities?
So I will say moms are probably the most.
Erin, how old are your children?
My kids are 9 and 12. And so, moms are the most efficient human beings on the planet because you have to deal with them and their needs and what you're doing to work. And going back to like being angry, like my time was being taken away from them, because when I'm at work, like I'm totally dedicated to my patients, and like they are truly my kids, and their parents are my families, and we're developing those relationships. But that clock's got to end at some point. Like you need that boundary. And going back to burnout, that's part of setting healthy boundaries. And I felt a lot of guilt when I quit my stable job in healthcare to go back to school and take out yet another student loan. And, I felt like my kids were potentially losing out on opportunities because I was being selfish to go back to school and do something. And sure, like it was good in the broader sense of maybe the world, the impact I could have, but still, like, we had to cut back on things like summer camps and trips and, opportunities to do stuff. So there was a lot of guilt, feeling like I'm making this decision for me, but it is also affecting my kids. But in the end, like the exposure that I've gotten through, I was part of the Sloan Fellows MBA program, which is 115 people, 42 different countries. They feel like a part of that cohort. Like they have these friends from all over the world now, and they got this exposure to super cool things. Both my kids came to class with me on a day. Like I never saw what higher education looked like growing up. They have now sat in an MIT classroom and gone to a finance lecture, at like age 8. Nice. And my youngest was taking notes like better than most of my classmates. So I think like that's how I kind of balance in my head. Yeah, this is this really hard thing, and yes, I'm away from them a lot, and yes, it's bleeding over. But they're getting exposed to a different version of mom that's really on a mission, and they're seeing things and they're getting exposed to things that they never would have seen otherwise. So I'm hoping that pays off dividends. But yeah, the guilt is real.
Aaron, my children have said to me, like, watching me develop my own business has inspired them, and they are so proud of me. I'm going to get teary.
How old are they?
They are older. They are now 18, 21, and 23. But I came from a different perspective than you. I did the opposite, which is I knew my family and kids were my most important thing from the day one. So even though I've had this illustrious career that I'm really proud of, I work part-time for 9 of them. Were there moments where that held me back? Possibly, but my priorities and values are straight. So like, for what it's worth, my husband and I sat down and said, if the kids are not thriving or our family's not thriving, like, you okay being the one to quit? And I was like, absolutely. Like, I raised my hand for that. So I've gone through the mindset of family first, such that when I make the decisions, I have zero parental guilt. I'm happy to say that, to be able to know that I took that and made that happen and still had an illustrious career that I'm really proud of.
Amazing. Thank you all so much. It's crazy how fast this hour has gone. Unfortunately, we are out of time. Thank you so much. Another huge round to our speakers. Fabulous, fabulous panel.
We're not kidding. Like, QR codes are up here with our LinkedIn. So connect with us, reach out. Like, we are here. We want to create an environment where we're supporting each other. And this is just the start of introduction so that we can all get to know you.
Woo! Love it. So we do have a lot more in store, both for the rest of the day and for the week. We also have our startup crawl happening tonight. That kicks off at 6:30 right outside from Suffolk University. There are limited spots. Please be on time because we are prompt. And we know that you guys want to mingle after this event. We highly encourage it. Get connected. That's exactly what we're here for. Only thing is, I kindly ask that you do not do it in this room, or for not.
You're kicking us out.
Ever so slightly. I will need to reset this room for our next panel. If you are in this room for the next session, I just kindly ask that you check in with registration and register before you come in. Lastly, for early stage founders, this Friday at the closing party, you'll have the chance to share your startup, your venture, at the Startup Showcase open mic. Stop by the welcome desk on the first floor right out there for more details. Thank you again so much for your active participation. Thank you to our panelists, and we'll see you at the next session.
Thank you, panelists.